Welcome to another episode of Take Up Space. Today, we're focusing on and giving space to this idea that the eldest siblings in every family, or South Asian family specifically, for them, somewhere around in their journey, they've probably learned that healing means self-sacrifice and strength means self-sacrifice. So I have with me Sanjana Iyer, who's an LPCA, who focuses on this work specifically, but we're going to together explore the emotional layers of what that could mean for the eldest sibling, what that role looks like, the cultural expectation, and what it takes to rewrite that story beyond survival. So thank you so much, Sanjana, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You work primarily with the BIPOC community, South Asians, and the LGBTQIA plus teens and young adults navigating all of this stuff in life transitions. So you're the perfect person to be talking about this. I know we couldn't have Parthi here today. Shout out to her.
Shout out to my suit.
Shout out to your supervisor. We'll talk to her soon enough. So I guess kind of like setting the tone of this conversation from your work and your experience. I mean, there is like a term, I guess, eldest daughter syndrome. And I was trying to say, maybe it's just eldest sibling too. I wonder what your thoughts are on that. But from your practice, from your experience, what do you feel like this label means and what's really happening underneath it? And what should we kind of like pay attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot to unpack there, but yeah, I think especially with eldest daughters, I think oftentimes it's like this almost like hypervigilance that can stem from being expected to do certain things from a young age, being treated as like an extra parent and having to take on those responsibilities really young and unknowingly kind of filling that role without knowing if that's their true like identity. So I almost feel like sad to hear that it's like called a syndrome.
Right. I mean, that was actually the first time I was kind of hearing about it. But when I looked at the work you guys did, it was like a real thing, right?
Yeah.
So when you see people and they come in for this type of, is it literally that they're saying that? Like that's kind of like the presenting problem? Or how do you see it show up?
I feel like it usually is more unconscious.
Yeah,
And
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting too, because as like a fellow eldest daughter, I feel like
You are an eldest? You get it then. Yeah.
Yes,
I'm the youngest, but my brother is the eldest. And I feel like there probably is an element of like, maybe from the son perspective, it's more like, what's the word? Not like caretaking, but in a masculine way.
like being a provider in that sense.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I
Yeah.
should see it that way.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. I feel like maybe it hasn't been explored as much lately.
Yeah.
But maybe that'll be something that can be explored now that, eldest daughter has been like solidified. We're like, maybe we should move on to this as more like guys are coming into therapy too and opening up. But yeah.
So you see it show up more unconsciously and then it becomes a part of the conversation.
Yes, I often see clients kind of talk about people-pleasing tendencies or like, oh, I wonder why I'm afraid of failure or feel like being perfect or feel like I might not be capable at something. And then we kind of go into their childhood and there's usually a parent that instilled that thought or that view of themselves at a young age and something they might have unknowingly carried with them.
Yeah. So what do you think, like in your perspective, what that is when parents instill that? How do you think that differential treatment between different siblings starts to shape into this root of an entire personality based on like people pleasing or caretaking? Like, I wonder if there's something we can zoom in on for the South Asian parents that, I don't know, like sometimes when a newborn comes in, I think there's a lot more attention there versus like the child that might have been there before kind of loses some of that. And maybe that's a little bit of it. Maybe it's like not understanding that both are still developing and they both have critical needs regardless. Just not knowing that, of course, like not intentional. But I know like growing up, there's this concept called sibling rivalry. And like when you're younger, like I am, you do get a bit more attention and love because you're new, they're trying to take care of you and all of that. So yeah, I'm curious from your lens, what does that look like?
I feel like that ends up being where the personality starts to take shape but molded around like other people. It's almost like that there's like that identity crisis where, okay, someone's telling me I'm this, someone's judging me for this, so that must mean that's what I am, rather than like, what do I really think I am? Like, who am I? What are my values? I feel like all of those things kind of get swept under the rug because of the caregivers being the opinions you care about the most, being the ones to tell you that. So of course, I feel like for children, like that judgment becomes the main thing they hear that resonates with them.
Yeah, like the voice of what they're hearing becomes their personality or like the way they see themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the work you do is based in, you said experiential, narrative therapy, and expressive arts, right?
Yes.
Okay. How do you use all these techniques and like weave them in to create any kind of evolution or change within them?
Something I really like about those approaches and modalities is that it's kind of going into the unknown and that the other person isn't like expected to have to verbalize it. Like it might be something they don't know how to put into words, and being
Mm,
able to draw it, being able to create a song or express it through movement
that
can be
sounds so fun.
easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love like making my adults do it too. I'll be like, it doesn't matter how old you're, like you're still gonna do this
Yeah.
like art activity.
Do you prompt them usually, or is it like just do what you feel?
I always ask, so I'll kind of be like, would you prefer that I give you a prompt to start?
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are like, no, I already have an idea of what I want to do. And I really like when, people who come in who might not feel inclined to that stuff end up really enjoying it. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of like sand tray.
Yes, I love the
Yes,
sand
I
tray.
love
There's
sand
actually a
tray.
virtual sand tray
Yes,
too.
I
I
use
use that
that
with my
all the
clients too. Yeah.
time. It's so fun. I feel like that's something that always.
Can you describe it for people listening that might not know?
So it's basically like if it's in person, it's like a real sand tray, and then there's like little toys and figurines that the client can depict like their world in, or like something you prompt them to do, like, oh, describe like the happiest moment of your life, like through the sand, and then they can create whatever they want, and you can kind of interpret it with them afterward. That, and I usually start off sessions that way too, like, oh, if you could draw yourself as a symbol today, like what would that
Yeah,
be?
yeah.
Or even asking things in like a vague manner of like, okay, if you were a song, like what song described your week? Like just always kind of throwing something out there to start off with so it doesn't feel as daunting at the
To
beginning.
like talk about these heavy things
Yes.
versus like let them come from play, from experiment. I think one of the hardest things about therapy is like you're trying to bring stuff from the unconscious to the conscious. So there's only so many ways you can tap into that. That's not like conversation or dreams even. Like
Yes, I
it
love
is
dream work.
play and like expression. And dream work is cool too. So you're an eldest daughter as well, right? So
Hmm.
how do you, if I mean, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, what has it been like for you to deconstruct that label and that schema and how you show up?
That's a really good question. I feel like it's almost like I'm attracting the clients that are like reflecting that back at me
Yeah, that
more.
I feel like that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, like especially seeing South Asian teen girls like more so lately. I feel like it's been
Yeah.
bringing that like that part of myself back to the front
Mm,
again and being like, oh, I
mm-hmm.
kind of thought I was all done like
Mm-hmm.
healing from that.
Surprise. Yeah.
Even though I know we say like, oh, growth isn't linear, it's like lifelong, and then you kind of
Yeah, you're like hoping you're done with like the major big blocks, but okay, so it's still coming up for you. Yeah.
yeah. I definitely feel like I've kind of grown from the identity that I was expected to fit in a lot of
Mm,
ways,
mm-hmm.
but can see that I might still carry certain things that were said, or some of those
Yeah.
feelings can still come up from time to time.
Can you share, like, maybe even what are some of the things that still today you want to work on?
Yeah, I'm definitely more of like a written processor. So
Okay.
usually for
Yeah.
me, if I'm like thinking of these things or thoughts like this come up a lot, I'll like write a poem or just
Mm,
like sit alone somewhere and be like, oh, let me turn this into
hmm.
a song or something. So
Yeah.
that's
So
usually
it wasn't
how.
like therapy specifically.
No, it wasn't therapy
Oh,
specifically.
so it was arts for you on your
Yes,
own.
yes. And then the more that I've like been seeing clients, I'm like, yeah, now I think I would like to find someone so I can
Oh,
also have that like space
I
that I
love
haven't,
that. Yeah. And
you
I feel like
know.
that's so important as therapists.
But yeah, it's interesting how there's all these things that you feel like don't they don't affect me day to day, but I feel like they're still just
They're there.
they're there sometimes.
Yeah. How do they show up for you?
Pretty bad with setting boundaries, and I feel
Yeah.
like
Oh, that's such a hard one.
yes, and then they emphasize it so much now too, like make sure
Yeah.
you set your boundaries with like clients and like in your work and like life balance and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's come up again because I'm also like younger, so in a lot of spaces with like parents and stuff, it's
Oh,
hard
yeah.
to set boundaries if they're being overbearing or thinking like, oh, you're young, you'll
Like,
be okay with this, or like he
yeah.
won't care as much kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing.
Like speak for you or assume.
Yes, yes. And I feel like that also shows up in, I don't know why, asking someone for like a rate, like the full rate or something, I'll always be like, oh, I should try.
Oh, I like asking a new client to pay the full
Yes,
rate.
yes.
Okay.
Because I'm like, oh, I wish I could do this for free. But like I have to remind myself that no, I like need to make a living and like have food and like live and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a really hard one. I've seen like associates and like and LPCs like slowly, gradually build their rate for that reason. So they feel like they're comfortable asking. But at the end of the day, it's like that rate, whatever it is a number that reflects like what you need and like how you're gonna live your life best, right? Or whatever suits you. But it can be so challenging to put that on someone and ask them and like feel okay with that and set that as like I'm not accepting anyone otherwise, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's like, who am I to deny like you the opportunity to explore this in case it's
Yeah.
not something that can be met. So I always try my best to like
Yeah.
find a way. But yeah, definitely shows up that way, in that way. And with like communicating, I don't want to say like negative emotions, but say like there's a lot I'm doing or taking on as responsibility. It's always like my first thing to be like, it's all good, I got it. It's like hard for me to like let someone else
Mm,
take on something. I don't want to like burden the other
mm-hmm,
person.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of that came from like growing up that way, being like you need to make, keep the peace or like act like
Mm-hmm.
everything is okay and that you can handle
Yeah.
it kind of thing.
Yeah. And do you think that the part of like the eldest sibling, like where do you think that kind of connects and comes in for
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a combination of things. Like parents also with the first child, I feel like it's almost an experiment. Like they don't really know what's going
Yeah.
on either. So, they're figuring it out, but I think that ends up being that you kind of take on a lot of the emotional like burden and like weight of everything, and I feel like that also kind of led to burnout as well. Just like
Mm,
realizing that, oh, I don't have to take this on. This isn't mine to carry necessarily. It might just be something that, they grew up with and then they saw their grandparents grow up
yeah.
with and it's natural for them to instill that in us as well.
Yeah.
Realizing that, maybe we made them that way, but they don't like know it until you say it
Yeah.
either. It's like until you're able to confront it, it's, hard to change.
Can you share, like, through this work and in this context, a moment that stands out to you from your work where maybe someone actually started to create that change where they said, okay, I'm done with this caretaking identity and now I'm going to reclaim myself and my authenticity. And it's been years of doing it this way, but like I finally can see through who I really am and what I want to take away and how I want to show up. Have you gotten to see that transformation? And can you share what that is like to watch unfold?
Yeah, one of my South Asian clients comes to mind who's like in her mid-30s, and
Hmm.
when she first came in, she did mention like being a creative spirit and not
Hmm.
having been as in touch with it. Was an eldest daughter as well to like a few younger brothers, and was raised by like a single mom. Her dad was deported when she was a kid, so a lot of that responsibility fell on her even more
Yeah.
to, act like everything's okay. And in a recent session, had kind of described like trying to become the perfect Desi daughter
Oh, yeah.
that like
Hmm.
is advertised, and realize that, oh, this is even worse than before, like this is making me unhappy. So I ended up asking her to do like a self-portrait in between sessions,
Yeah.
and she came in and she brought it in, and it was like her as like a doll with like no expression on her face. She had
Interesting. No expression.
no expression, and I was like, yeah, this is really cool, because she did like a watercolor and like a whole painting and
Mm,
everything. And she had said that it was really jarring for her to like see herself, because she's never painted herself, one, and two, also feeling like, oh, this seems like more authentic to me, like this seems like how I actually feel.
mm.
And I thought that that was really powerful, because she's usually someone who comes in and always has a smile on her face.
Yeah. And the representation of her didn't. It was expressionless.
Yes, and that really just stood out to me as like a, oh my God, this moment is so like impactful and
Oh,
important, because
yeah.
she's like recognizing this and is now
Yeah.
like, what does that mean? Like, who do I
Mm-hmm.
want to be? How do I want to feel now?
Mm, yeah. It's like one of those moments where it's hitting her in real time through art, which is lovely, that maybe like the way I show up isn't exactly how I reflect back to myself. Yeah, that's so powerful. So her journey from there, has it been like understanding what that means now and how she shows up?
Yeah, now we've kind of started unpacking like where that came from, like
Mm,
the okay, need to show that everything's okay or that
the
like that
happy
positive.
like persona.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, our last session is where she kind of realized that it's coming from this fear of like rejection and like
Mm,
abandonment.
mm-hmm.
And so now we're like, okay, let's explore that and like where that started now that it's
Yeah.
like kind of come up to the surface.
Okay. I love the self-portrait idea. That's like so
Yeah.
creative. I've never done that before. Recently, I did an art one. Oh, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. But it was like basically the idea was to draw a bridge. And
Hmm.
at the beginning of the bridge, it was like everything that you're leaving behind, you draw like little symbols of. And then at the end of the bridge, you're drawing everything you want to create. And in the middle, you say your bridge, the way you like, if you use steel or wire or concrete, whatever, like all of that could mean something in terms of how rough it is to get across it. But in the middle, it's like, what is it going to take to get there? And I had a client do all of that. And it was like really powerful because you get to put words to things that you normally wouldn't, that you probably don't identify with anymore, or like who you want to be, you know?
No, that's really cool. I like that because
I love art.
it's like up to them to decide what to use to
Yeah.
like get to the other side, and I really like.
Right. Yeah. And you can get creative with how the bridge looks, and like maybe parts of it are not so easy, and maybe parts of it are more challenging, just depending on what that journey looks like for you. So I love it. Okay. And what does it mean for you and for your clients to move from like, I take care of everyone to I'm allowed to be taken care of too?
Yeah, I feel like with that, it's important to like come from a place of moving away from that self-blame and
Yeah.
like judgment of like yourself and like opening up to self-compassion and just knowing that that's going to be a journey, but even acknowledging that, this isn't mine. Like, I don't have to claim this. Like, I can
Mm-hmm.
rewrite what I want for myself. I can empower myself in a way that hasn't been done yet. Kind of
Yeah.
becoming comfortable with not knowing that, but like
Mm.
accepting that uncertainty is just what you have to get through to get to the other side.
Yeah. I think uncertainty period is just the hardest part of any therapy, in any journey, in any healing context, because you want to know, like you want to know for sure.
And I think that, can be that like obstacle in accepting that maybe I deserve better. Maybe I deserve more than this, more than I've been
Mm,
letting myself have, because that's like a safe place to be.
yeah.
And like I feel like a form of protecting oneself from facing, the fear of judgment or rejection or going through something they've already gone through in the past. And even if it's on a smaller scale, it still can have that same feeling tied to it.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes these things are so rigid because it's been happening for your whole life and you're coming to terms with it at a different point in life. And I think it's just so much easier for us to say something like, let that go and be your authentic self, and for someone to actually do the steps of working through that because it really feels like a death of a part of you or a death of the way you see yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and like what you said too, it's like what if that person doesn't know who their authentic self is? You can't expect that if they haven't
We
gotten
really
through the
don't at
exploration.
the beginning. I mean, I still figure it. You still figure that out there as you go. Yeah.
Exactly. I think like being open to that exploration is like the biggest part of, whatever
Mm-hmm.
you decide, like it's not set in stone. You can always restart and
Yeah.
grow from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. What are some ways that we can spot those patterns without placing blame or falling into blame? Like, I guess maybe to elaborate, like instead of saying, this is because I just am that way, or this is because my parents did this, or because this is what I saw. What are ways to spot those patterns?
I feel like if someone's talking about, oh, I've noticed that I talk about all these things I want to do and then I can never commit to it or I can never do it. I feel like kind of sitting with that feeling
Mm,
and focusing on the feeling versus what they're saying tends to help because I mean, they're obviously going to rationalize and try to provide a reason for why it's happening. But I think going beyond the reason and to how they're feeling inside, like what that brings up for them is like more important than the externalization of it, I guess.
yeah, like dropping into attuning to what they're feeling in that moment.
Yes, yeah. And I feel like silence can really help too sometimes because
Silence is a master trick. We
yes.
learned that in therapy school. I call it therapy school, but like our masters, right? Like silence
Yes.
is like a tactic to, I feel like I'm giving it away, but it's like, it's
All the
a,
secrets.
all the secrets. But it is, it's a tactic to like let the other person process a little bit more and then hopefully share a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like that was something initially that there was like a struggle because I'm like, oh, I'm like a yapper. Like, how am I gonna,
It's
like,
uncomfortable for
yeah.
sure.
And then the
Yeah.
more I started utilizing, I started seeing that that gave the person the space to like sit and reflect on what they were saying and actually process it more rather than feel like they had to provide an explanation for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like less of a tactic, it's a technique. A tactic sounds like very manipulative. It's a technique to help them further explore. So you're saying like dropping into feelings or giving them more space through silence can help them identify maybe the patterns of what they're saying or what's reoccurring for them.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like once those patterns are like recognized, that's when we can kind of move forward to like solution-based things of okay,
Mm,
what do you want to do versus what you've been doing
yeah.
and like what that looks like and kind of celebrating the small steps to achieve it rather than okay, here's the action plan and you're just gonna do it. And I think that process is always really cool too to kind of just see the little like
Just,
away.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a client or like an example of someone who's been doing this is kind of like on the side of exploring their authentic self? I wonder just what that experience is like to completely shed an older version of you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like that's been coming up with my teens where they are like, I didn't know myself at all last year, and now I'm
Yeah.
starting to find
Yeah.
myself a bit, and it's been hard to, know who I am and explore that, but also them saying that they're open to like seeing what that journey is like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I always find it kind of endearing too because like they're so young.
Young,
So of
yeah.
course, the pressures of society and like social media and again like parents and what they've seen can be factors in that.
Yeah.
But a discussion we had that really like stuck with me was talking about how often humans can be reduced to like their worst parts of themselves
Mm.
rather than being seen as like a whole person for all the
Yeah.
complexities that like we all
Yeah.
have
Mm-hmm.
and what it's like to like face those so-called like not so great parts of yourself
Yeah.
and also know that doesn't make you a bad person for experiencing that or having those feelings and thoughts too.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of them in the sense of just accepting that they don't have to be perfect or like
Yeah.
always fit into this one mold they might have for themselves and that it's okay to branch off and see like who they want to be.
Yeah. Oh, teens are so special in that way. It's such a pivotal moment of their life to be able
Yeah.
to start to either like pick up these things or hopefully like keep pushing through this, challenging this notion of perfection or trying to like label, box themselves into anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And especially since identity is so like fluid and like ever
Yeah.
changing, I feel like it's hard to expect it to be viewed the same way it used to be. Where it was like,
Yeah.
okay, you're this or you're that and that's it. And now it's like, no, like that's not the only limit. There's no limitations
There's
really.
no. So you also work with the BIPOC community and the LGBTQ plus IA community. Do you see any like patterns or reoccurring themes that would be interesting?
Yeah, especially with my clients who are in the LGBTQIA plus
Yeah.
community, I feel like a lot of the time it'll be kind of coming in like, I thought I fit this label this whole
Mm-hmm.
time, and now something happened where now I'm like, I don't know if I still fit that.
Yeah.
And kind of needing that validation that it's okay to not fit it anymore and that, you
Right.
can still
Or fit
explore.
both or like
Yeah.
be in the middle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think when it comes to like, collectivist cultures and like marginalized populations, the
Yeah.
other factor that can show up too is how to open up to the family about that.
Mm.
Like I have a client who was like struggling with coming out to her family as they like I think they immigrated from Mexico and she like
Mm.
told her immediate family, but
Yeah.
was really worried about telling her grandparents because she just thought, how are they ever going to
Under.
understand?
Yeah.
So a lot of that will come up too, and just how to navigate the backlash and like reactions that can happen and still
Yeah.
maintain,
A sense of self
self.
in
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I wonder, like, I've had a lot of friends and family like experiences where they've had to come out and the backlash is really strong. At least initially, it's kind of like don't ever talk to me again kind of thing, or like it can go as far as to like disowning a kid for their identity of any kind. I wonder like what from your lens, like how do you like encourage or support someone who's about to come to their parents and have that difficult conversation?
Yeah, I feel like usually developing some sort of like communication plan based on
Mm,
like the way they want to communicate and the way they know the people they're telling communicate. They don't go in feeling unprepared or anything. Sometimes I like to be
yeah.
like, let's write out the conversation and role play it and see like what that feels like to, do that now. Kind of alleviate some of the stress surrounding it, and also making sure that they are in a safe environment and that like,
Yeah.
okay, if they do this, like nothing will compromise that as
Right.
well.
Right. Yeah, it's like you can't really change the outcome or how it's going to go, but what you're talking about is like making it as contained or predictable as possible to deal with like at least the activation surrounding it.
Yes, yeah. I think that's like the most important part, just in that they feel supported and feel like they have some idea of, okay, this is my goal from this. Like, we'll see what
Yeah.
happens, but at least I have this, like, a support system. Also identifying those people, like, who are the people that you can lean on in this time and
Yeah.
who are allies of yours, just so they have that backing too.
Yeah. Okay. I love this. On this, like in this domain of what we just talked about, do you feel, before we shift to the like rapid fire nonsensical questions that I have, do you feel like there's anything we didn't cover that you want to, or you want to like send a message out on?
I guess all I can say really is that I'd love to see more of like these creative interventions like combined with like cultural like sensitivity and like attunement, because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the time, a lot of these modalities that we were taught were like so like Eurocentric and like
Oh, for
West
sure. Yeah.
based. And I would love to see these things like be brought to other communities too, where it's not like you have to speak the same language to like
Mm-hmm.
benefit from this. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can go to other parts of the world and like learn from them too. And yeah, I don't know. Like there's a lot that still interests me as I'm like still learning and growing too,
Yeah.
but I really also want to explore like those ancestral elements to like
Mm-hmm.
these interventions and like dream work, and how there is like that inherited trauma, but there's also some wisdom that can be found in
In
those
that.
in the
Yeah.
past and the
I love
culture.
both of those. Yeah. I feel like there's so much more this our space can still do and learn from in this capacity, because you're right, like all the modalities were built off of a very Eurocentric like place. And yes, it doesn't always resonate or hit or even touch or consider different nuances of cultures. But if it did, if it incorporated that, it could do so much more.
Yeah, like seeing everyone as like a holistic like person. Like I
Being,
feel like
yeah.
that itself would like shape and change the way that we approach our
Yeah, I love that. Okay, ready for my craziness?
Yes.
Okay. So, what's one societal message that you either indirectly or directly receive that you're like, done, I'm opting out?
Like how like girls should be like the seen not heard kind of thing. Yeah, and I'm
Ugh.
like I hate that because I feel
Yeah.
like we can say whatever we want, and I don't know. I was always told I was very headstrong for being very outspoken, and I
Oh.
feel like that's like a good quality.
What's one thing you do to reset your mental health often?
I really like reconnecting with nature, so usually it'll be
Yeah.
like a walk or back when I was living in Austin, I would go for a swim
Oh,
and just
yeah.
like yeah, I feel like it always is very grounding to me to just be out there in the elements with like nothing else, no noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nature is
Yeah.
your go-to. And then last one, what is the funniest piece of advice you've gotten about mental health from like anyone in your stratosphere?
There was this colleague at my last practice that for some reason thought like protein intake like related to like
Really?
your how often you can like deal with these issues or something. And
Really?
I wonder if it was to me because like I grew up vegetarian and like vegan and stuff. So I was like, this is a joke, right? And I was like, no, I think she's genuinely telling me this. Like, oh, if you like
What?
up that, it'll be like a protective factor for you. And I'm like, maybe this is the fad, the recent thing where everyone's like, yeah, you need like 10
Yeah.
cups of protein powder a day kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know,
I
but
don't know. So,
that's hilarious.
yes, very weird advice.
That is the strangest I've heard to date here. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, so when you said that, I was like, I guess I could say it now that I'm not there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, like you're not working there. Yeah, yeah. Now it's a
Yes.
safe time. Okay, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you for sharing just like your work and your wisdom.
Thank you for creating the space for all of us to come in here and
Yeah.
take up space.
Yeah, that's the goal.